Hello and welcome to the first part of a collection of tips aimed at tanks in Throne of Thunder, primarily warriors, on how to maximise your DPS output. First up is Jin'Rohk, and there isn't really much you can do here apart from the moving into the waters whenever you aren't tanking. And this is a perfect time to call for salvation from a paladin. Just be ready to run back out of the water to avoid destroying the raid if for whatever reason you don't have salv up and you rip aggro. Second is Horridon, and there are a few things you can do here. The first is if you're tanking the boss to move out during each of the double swipes and applying any dots you have to the adds, as the extra dots ticking can be quite potent, especially given the number of adds that can be up at any one time. For our tactic, I am on the boss full time and I'm just having my stacks popped off during the double swipes, which is ideal if you have a high AoE DPS off tank such as a monk or a DK. A small disclaimer, I have to just warn you that our last phase here was pretty awful, but one, that it does serve the purpose of illustrating a few points. Gearing here, specifically for the meta, you have two choices. You can either be fairly aggressive and go with the DPS meta, or you can go with the tanking one. With the tanking meta you can take the triple puncture pretty high, 11 plus for some extra vengeance if you get some well timed procs off it, so make sure you're able to see if it's running or not. The tanking meta will also be safer during the last phase, although the DPS meta will probably net you higher damage. Having said that, the last phase is where you'll do a very significant portion of your DPS. As you'll see from the video, having a well-timed meta proc lets you play a lot more aggressively and dump a lot of your rage into executes, which at this point in the fight are doing pretty obscene amounts of damage, which you otherwise wouldn't have been able to risk doing if you had the DPS meta. You can also eat the double swipes during phase 1 as they really aren't that threatening, however I would probably recommend that you do not take them in the last phase. As always, just have good coordination with your healers and call for any cooldowns you might need, and you can comfortably solo tank the last phase. If you wanted to as well, you could also probably consider tanking the War God, provided you have a strong cooldown available for you. On the Council of Elders, and one thing I would highly recommend you do is you can take the Rude Interruptions glyph and put a focus interrupt macro on Sul, as he casts a Sandbolt extremely frequently and will be able to get you a very high uptime on a flat 6% extra damage. You can also afford to swap out a few tanking pieces for DPS ones, as the tank damage here really isn't threatening at all, apart from the frozen attacks from Malak. If possible, try and aim for the 4-set DPS and the meta. The charge from Khazrajin is also soakable for a little bit more vengeance if you wish to do so. The only other thing I'd suggest on this fight is that after Sul dies and Malak's health is getting lower, you're free to take the damage increase orb, as this will net you significantly higher vengeance, but just be ready to have a cooldown running if he does do his frozen attacks while you have high stacks of the debuff. On Magera there aren't really that many things you can do here apart from abusing the damage on the adds. If the adds are within range of you running, you can wait until a breath has just cast, and then you can move out to spread your dots, or in my case Dragon Roar, for quite a significant amount of damage. When running between the heads as well, if you have any adds still up, you can interrupt them with a pummel, and the Heavy Repercussions glyph again for the 6% extra damage. As you can see, the tactic we use involves having warriors using Mocking Banner on the double arcane add waves, and having a Solar Beam or a Ring of Peace running. This lets you spread your dots fairly easily, as all the adds will be grouped up in one place. Unless you're using a double prot warrior tanking, I'd probably suggest using Ring of Peace on the DPS warrior banner to prevent the adds from giving them, and this is also a good time to use Vigilance on them. The advantage of Solar Beam over Ring of Peace for when you're tanking the adds is that they'll still melee swing, giving you a little bit more vengeance as well. With light AoE from the raid, it's possible for you to pretty much solo the adds, which will net you a lot of DPS, having your dots ticking for the majority of the adds' health. This wraps up the first section of the video. Luckily, with the later parts of Throne of Thunder, there are a lot more things than on the first bosses that you can use to maximise your damage as a tank. So, thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment or share these videos if you like them. Also, any suggestions are more than welcome. Best of luck, and happy scumbagging.